Primetime Sports with Scott Alexander is underwritten by Task Performance.
Crescent City Steakhouse, a true neighborhood restaurant operated by the Vojkovic family since 1934, is the oldest steakhouse in the city of New Orleans. Serving only hand-cut, prime-aged, corn-fed beef for over 80 years, Crescent City Steakhouse has become a dining destination for both die-hard locals and adventurous travelers who seek traditional, timeless New Orleans cuisine. Crescent City Steakhouse, 1001 North Broad, on the corner of St. Philip, in the heart of New Orleans.
Fall in love with autumn with PJ's new seasonal lattes. Our pumpkin latte brings you all the flavors of a pumpkin pie with hints of cinnamon and nutmeg, like your favorite holiday dessert in a cup. And our s'mores latte with flavors of toasted marshmallows, warm milk chocolate, and graham cracker cinnamon is sure to bring back campfire memories. The PJ's Fall Seasonal Lattes, available at your local PJ's only for a limited time.
So here's the bottom line. Well, it's funny that you say that. Let me tell you. Good evening, and welcome to Primetime Sports. Hey, I'm your host, Scott Alexander, and as you already know, well, the summer's winding down, so that could only mean one thing to sports fans down here in South Louisiana. That's right, college football is around the corner, and it's getting started sooner than you think. 9 days away, it all kicks off right here in New Orleans, and that's going to be Thursday night next week. That's going to be at Ullman Stadium. Tulane, Green Wave, they started off. They have the highly anticipated game they've been waiting for all summer long against a very, very tough Wake Forest team. You think Wake Forest, you think, oh, this is very winnable. This team was good last season. They had a quarterback that accounted for nearly 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns. Well, he's graduated, thank goodness, but they went 8-5 last year, and they beat Texas A&M in the Belk Bowl in an absolute thriller. If you remember that one, 55-52. Hey, this team's no joke, but Tulane is definitely improving. Speaking of Wake Forest, they have one guy that you must account for. He's freshman, All-American last season, and he's a preseason All-ACC selection this year. His name is Greg Dortch, and he's going to be playing on Sundays. Trust me on this. This guy in only 8 games last year, he had 9 touchdowns, nearly 800 yards receiving. He had 53 catches. If you spread that out, those are ridiculous numbers if you had played 12 or 13 games with the rest of the team. Hey, Tulane head coach Willie Fritz, lots expected from him this year. They had 3 wins the first year. He took over a moribund program, 5 last year, so close to that bowl, that SMU game, which everybody talks about. They got right down the goal line. Some say he scored, some say he didn't, obviously, depending on which team you root for. But Tulane is expected this year to take that next step into a winning record and hopefully a bowl game for them as well. Hey, also Thursday night, the Southeastern Lions. I can't leave out the Southern Conference. They're playing good football in that conference. Frank Selfo, he is the brother of former Tulane coach Chris. He travels to Monroe this weekend to play the ULM Warhawks, and that game is going to be Thursday night as well, like I said. Hey, then on Saturday, the UL Raging Cajuns, who also have a new head coach. His name is Billy Napier, and they're going to host Grambling over there in Lafayette. The Raging Cajuns are ready to roll. They've got a nice squad. Hey, by the way, speaking of nice squads, down in Thibodaux, this might just be their best team ever. Expectations are high. You remember when Tim Rebowe took over this program, they were at the very bottom. They even had an 0-12 season or two. But he has turned this thing around in just a few years. Like I said, they are ready to roll. They got into the playoffs last season, lost on a heartbreaker, but they traveled to Lawrence, Kansas to play the Jayhawks. And you might say, hey, it's a Power 5 school. This is a very winnable game. Chase Forcade, the former Rummel quarterback who's done fabulous things for this program, he leads the charge for this team in a possible FCS title run. Hey, they got to get that Southland Conference first. They want to win that. They haven't done that one in a while, so good luck to them. And then, well, there's even more weekend fun on Labor Day. The day before, on Sunday night, Sunday evening, well, the LSU Tigers, they travel up to Dallas. And as you know, they have that high-stakes opening game in Jerry's World. They're going to play the 8th-ranked Miami Hurricanes. You remember this team. Mark Richt took them over in 2 seasons. He got them to 10-0 last year before they lost literally their last 3 games of the year. They kind of tanked at the end, but they were very strong. The whole turnover chain thing. This team plays good defense, returns 9 of those defensive starters. They are picked as a field goal favorite against the Tigers. There's just so much unknown at LSU. With 10 returning starters, that's 12 guys that people have to account for. But we're going to talk about all that. I have Willie Fritz on today. He's coming, the head coach. You know, we've had Coach O this summer. We've had all the head coaches. Willie, I wanted him to come right before the season. He's going to let you know what's going on with that team. And we've got the Saints and LSU covered. Remember, the Saints, they have training camp. It's still rolling, but there's no more fan participation in camp. They're 2 preseason games in. They're making some slices as we go along. Terrence West got let go today, but they're going to continue to do that. They have to cut down to 75 before their last preseason game in a couple weeks. So I guess that would be next week around this time. They've got to cut that down. So then they get down to the final 53. But then as far as today, speaking of Saints, I have Larry Holder, who, by the way, just left NOLA.com and the Times-Picayune. He'll tell you all about his new gig. And we're going to talk about that and, of course, what he expects from this Saints team. And my man, Mike Detillier. I haven't had many media guests on the entire summer. It's mostly players and coaches and musicians. But right now, you want to hear the meat and bones of what's going on. I've got the best. Holder, Detillier. Detillier is going to get deep into LSU and some Saints as well. And, of course, head coach Willie Fritz. All that's next on Primetime Sports. Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. I told you this is going to be a fun show. We're definitely going to get our Saints talk and our LSU talk. That's later in the show. But right now, I've got the head coach for the Tulane Green Wave. We had Coach O last month, and I wasn't going to leave my Green Wave friends out because I always love having Willie Fritz, who's going into his 3rd year right here in the Uptown campus, and I'm looking forward to this season. A 2-game improvement from last year. Heartbreaking loss to SMU and a couple other heartbreakers. They could have easily gone 8-4, and that's realistic. That's not just pie in the sky. But this year, I know they have high hopes. They have a senior quarterback in Jonathan Banks, who was just on our show a couple months ago. He was fantastic. But we're going to hear about the overview of this team and this year from the man himself, Willie Fritz. What's up, buddy?
Everything. I'm busy right now. We're working our tail off. We're in the middle of camp, and appreciate you having me on, though. 4th
time you've been here. We were doing pretty good. You got right when you got the job, and then we've had you once or twice a year ever since. So you're only 9 days away from the start. I mean, you're right around the corner. You kick off the football season. I know there's a schedule of games on Thursday night, but you're in the mix.
Yeah, we definitely are. We're on CBS Sports Network on Thursday, August 30th, 7 p.m. I guess there's a few college games on this weekend. Someone was talking.
Oh, they're already doing them this weekend.
Yeah, there's a few games that are going to be on this weekend. But you know, you get into the grind of preseason camp, everything else kind of goes out the window, and just focus on the task at hand.
Well, you have a couple things you're going to honor coming up here. One of them is a former Tulane coach who went on to coach North Carolina and Texas. He, by the way, was also an assistant at LSU at one time. Y'all might not.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah.
I'm here to teach. But no, his name is Mac Brown. He won a national championship, and some say perhaps the most thrilling national championship ever against USC. But he is going to the College Football Hall of Fame. You're honoring him as well as the undefeated 7th-ranked 1998 Tulane Green Wave football team, 20-year anniversary. Talk about those two things.
Well, you know, I've gotten to know Coach Brown a little bit because I was over in Texas for a number of years, and just a great guy. And he got inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame, which is really difficult to get into. There's 770 schools that play in the NCAA, Division I, 1AA, Division II, Division III, and he got in it. And you know, Troy Dannon, our athletic director, extended an invitation to him to come to the first game so that we could honor him. He's going to be in on Wednesday night. I'm going to have him visit with the team for a period of time, and then hopefully get a chance to see him the next day a little bit. Some of the guys that played for him are coming back to have a little bit of a reunion. He hasn't been back much, especially on campus.
Terrence Jones played for him, I mean, for a little bit?
Yes, 1 year, I believe. You're correct on that. And then the following week, we're going to play on September the 8th, 9/8, And we're going to honor the 98 team.
9-8.
And Coach Bowden is coming back. Exactly right. We're playing Nichols. Got a great team. Coach Rebo's doing a super job down there. And Coach Bowden will be back.
Terry Bowden.
So will Coach Rodriguez, Rich Rod.
Rich Rod, the offensive coordinator. By the way, Tulane ran a spread offense. That seems like everybody's doing it now, but they really were the only team doing it in 1998 under Sean King.
Yeah, very innovative.
Right.
With Coach Rod running that offense, ran some options. Sean King was the quarterback, and I think we're going to have about 50 of those guys back for a reunion. So that'll be a really neat time to get a chance to meet those guys and have them celebrate that unbelievable season.
It was magical. I watched it from afar, but I once they got past their first game, I remember coming down for an LSU-Georgia game from Atlanta with a bunch of Georgia folks, and a couple of the friends on our bus were Tulane grads, and I said, I really think this could be an undefeated year because the way the schedule lined up, the way that offense was putting up, they put 40-plus points at least 8 or 9 times, I think 9. I mean, they could score, and they had several NFL players on that team. But let's talk about this team because this is a year. By the way, people don't realize this is your 3rd year, but this is only the 2nd really full recruiting class that you have. And it's obvious, it's kind of a misnomer when people say because the guys that you recruited the entire time are freshmen and sophomores. You still have some players that you inherited, and you had that one recruiting class that you basically were extending offers for everybody because you just got the job. Talk about how the old player, the veteran players are mixing in practice with the younger ones.
Yeah, we've got some really good seniors this year, excellent football players, doing a good job with leadership. A lot of local kids. Taryn Alcalad from over Bell Chase.
He's a stud, by the way.
Yeah, he is. He's a really good football player, good receiver for us. Rod Teamer from over Brother Martin, another player. We got quite a few guys. Zach Harris from Holy Cross. And, I don't want to miss anybody. I'm sure I will.
But there's a lot of them.
We've got about 7 or 8 guys that are from New Orleans that are playing for us. It's going to be their senior season, so they're really, really excited about it. And you're right. That first year you come in, you try to get a recruit, but we really didn't start until almost the middle of January.
Sure.
And signing days that first week in February, and we've got
and you're hoping to salvage what you can.
Yeah, you're trying to get 7, 8, 9 guys that you think can play for you,
yeah.
and it's tough to come in there at the very end. But the last 2 recruiting classes have been good, not only with talent, but also with numbers. We've got a lot more depth than what we've had in the past. My first year, second year, if we got a guy injured, we might put in a guy that's not ready to play Division I football, no. And we got a lot more guys that are able to play at this level.
I got to give your marketing group a big plug because being a New Orleans guy that grew up loving Tulane, the NOLA built advertising run that y'all have been doing is great. Rod Teamer's on these commercials, but you talk about, hey, I love football, I love New Orleans, I love Tulane. And it's a good mix. Is that something you're trying to do, is draw more New Orleanians down and say, hey, we're your team?
Yeah, we really are. I was up at visiting Northwestern, and they talk about Chicago's college football team. And, we're New Orleans college football team. We're selling 3 things here at Tulane. Number one, opportunity to get a world-class education. We're 39th ranked school academically in the United States.
It's not a 4-year scholarship. It's a 40-year scholarship.
It really is.
40.
It really is. We sell that to our guys. And number 2, if you haven't come out to Yeoman Stadium and seen an American athletic game, I think you're really missing out. This is a great, great conference. And I think people would be very impressed if they haven't come out to a ball game. And last and certainly not least, we get to do it all in the iconic city of New Orleans, the #1 destination city in the world by the New York Times here a couple months ago. So those are things we're selling.
One guy you know well, and I had him on the show, and I think he's a delightful young man, is Jonathan Banks. He showed me a lot last season, some of those 4th down conversions, like, for instance, in the Army game.
Right.
When, by the way, Army didn't lose very many games, and y'all came back to beat them.
10-2, yeah.
10-2, and that was one of the losses to Tulane. But
us in Ohio State.
2 peas in a pod. But let's talk about what he is bringing to this team. The leadership is obvious, but what does he give you on the field? Because what I noticed perusing stats is that you guys passed the ball a lot more in season 2 than you did in season 1.
Yeah, Jonathan can do both. In this day and age with quarterbacks, you got to be able to do both. I was showing a stat to him in the offseason. I think his last season of play, Deshaun Watson had 161 carries. You probably wouldn't think that, but That's part of
He's
the
pretty
offense
good too, by the way.
in the college game is the quarterback being able to run and playing a lot 11-on-11 football instead of the quarterback handing the ball off and playing 10-on-11 football. And so he can run it, he can pass it, he's got a strong arm, he can make all the throws. And the thing I'm excited about is he's really got command of our offense in his second season. He understands it front, back, sideways, and he's really looked good in preseason camp so far.
Darius, okay, explain what's going on with him. Former quarterback, now playing running back. Big things are expected from him. How did he do with the transition? Darius Bradwell, of course.
He's done great. I thought he really played his best football about the last 3 games of the season. We played Oklahoma. He had an outstanding game. He looked like, there's a picture of it right there. He looked like he was having the tacklers bounce off of him. And
y'all had the lead in that game, by the way.
Yeah, we did for a while.
Y'all were beating Oklahoma in Norman. I've been there many times. It is a tough environment.
Tough place to play, but and then he had a great game against SMU. There's a picture of that ball game. I think he had over 100 yards in that game and about a 50-yard touchdown run as well. So he's a bigger back. He's about 6 foot, 6'1", 230 pounds. He's got pretty good speed and nimble feet for a big guy as well. So we think he's going to be a great back for us this year. Speaking
of bigger, I remember one of the things you said when you first got the job, you're looking for players that can play on this level. And you've recruited now. What is the difference of the type of player that you are starting to see in a Tulane uniform as opposed to before? Not comparing like what you had, but like what kind of player do you have on this team?
Well, I think we've got more speed. I think we got more quickness. We got guys that are, I think longer, which is important. I remember my first year, out on the perimeter with the corners and the wide receivers. We were usually a little bit shorter on both sides of the ball than the teams that we played, and we've gotten taller and longer on the perimeter, and you got to be able to do that in this conference.
Well, I'm going to tell you what, your first game is against Wake Forest, but if you don't know about Wake Forest, all you got to do is Google the Belk Bowl. They played and they beat Texas A&M, a good SEC team, 55-52. They had an explosive offense. Thank goodness the quarterback's no longer there because he put up like 5,000 yards, Wolford. But this guy is all ACC preseason, freshman All-American. This kid can play. I'm going to tell you right now, he got hurt for the last 5 games, but in 8 games, 9 touchdowns, almost 800 yards receiving, and 55 catches. That's a lot of stats. You got to count for any kick returns too.
Yeah, he's a great kick and punt returner, and he also gets out there and gets some one-on-one matchups against you. We got to be aware of where he's at on the field every single play.
You got Donnie Lewis back there. Yeah. Rod Teamer back there, 2 veteran guys. They have to make you feel good. Tulane has a recent history of some really good secondary players, and they are as well.
Yeah, they really are. They're both excellent football players, and I know you had him on here a few months ago as well, but Perry Nickerson.
We're
really pulling
the mayor.
You bet, the mayor of Uptown. And I talk to him about once a week, and he's a little banged up right now, but we've actually had the New York Jets in twice watching his practice, and they really feel confident that he'll make the ball club, which will be great for him.
That'd be great. And, to get that 40-year education to fall back on.
You bet.
Hey, I am rooting hard, just like the rest of New Orleans for you. Willie, it is a universal thing with you. People like you. They're attracted to your personality. They're attracted to the way you carry yourself with your team as well. And I don't know of anybody, even in the media, we're not supposed to root, but you're getting rooted for, my friend.
Well, this is a special university, and there's no reason why we can't win consistently here at Tulane. We've got all the pieces here in place, and this season we just need to stay away from those injuries and just play our tails off week in and week out. And I'm excited for the season to begin.
I'm going to tell fans, get out there and support this team. That is a great experience. You're going to love it. Hey, you old timers like me, you used to go to that 80,000 seat stadium. That was great, but this is better. It's more intimate. You're right there. I'm telling you, it's a great experience. And you know what else is a great experience? When you put on that Tulane colored blue, it's green and blue, that task performance, you're going to love it.
Tulane guy.
Yeah, Tulane, Al Andrews.
Yeah, that's right.
By the way, the last player in Tulane history that was all SEC in a sport, basketball player, never scored less than double figures in any game in his career.
Wow.
Averaged 19 point something his entire career.
I knew
the guy
he's good. I didn't know he's that good.
Go back to Shays Delashays.
You bet.
Task Performance, Willie, Fritz.
Thank you, Scott.
That's three things that are all good. I'll tell you that right now. Hey, coming up next, we've got Larry Holder and his new gig talking Saints, and Mike Detillier all over the LSU Tigers on Primetime Sports. Stay tuned.
The owners of the Detillier Wine Bar on St. Charles Avenue have opened up their newest creation uptown on Maple Street called Chez Detillier, a new local wine bistro featuring a larger menu of small and large plates, a brighter atmosphere, and full table service. Additionally, patrons can enjoy a large patio out front as well as an extensive wine list offering selections from around the world. It's Chez Detillier, 7708 Maple Street between Carrollton and Broadway.
Rock and roll will never die. It's old New Orleans, my oh my. Come on, baby, let's go rock and roll at the city lane. All night, let's roll, let's rock and roll. Baby, do the rock and roll at Mid-City Lanes, the home of rock and roll.
Hey, welcome back to Primetime Sports. We are switching gears from head coach Willie Fritz. I want to thank him. Now we're going to go to the Saints. And before I do, my next guest, now they're almost 3 years into the show. This is his first time appearing. I don't know if he likes me or not, but the fact is he had his own show during the same time I taped. There's no secret. This is a live-to-tape show or tape live, whatever you want to call it. I tape in the morning, and that's when Duncan Holder, the radio show with Jeff Duncan and my guest Larry Holder, they had their radio show. He has been with the Times-Picayune and NOLA.com for 6 years. In fact, I replaced him for a few months on the Sports Hangover when I first moved back to New Orleans. And you can't replace Larry Holder. You just can't do it. And so I moved on to greener pastures, but moving forward, Larry is moving on himself. He just took a job with The Athletic, and he's going to still cover the Saints, but he's going to cover a few other things, and we're going to learn all about that and where the Saints stand today and what he thinks about them coming up this season. But Larry, welcome.
Good to see you.
To the show for the first time.
Good to see you. Daycare, daddy daycare, and radio would always interrupt this when you'd tape, and so now I've scaled back. Kids are actually both in school. They go out to school at a normal hour.
Well, so how old are they now?
What 7 and 3. So, yeah, and, of course, they're both quarterback names, Brady and Chase. So people like Chase Daniel and Brady Quinn. No, on Jersey Day, I send my kid basically troll job. Everyone wears Saints jerseys. I send him in his Tom Brady jersey, and all the teachers give me grief, and all the students are like, "What is this?" I was like, "His name's on the back. What are you going to do?"
Well, it's better than Brady Quinn. Let's go Tom Brady.
My wife actually knew. She's like, "We're not naming him after Brady Quinn." I was like, "No, Tom Brady."
This is
exactly.
great. This is great. Well, does the kid catch any flack? I mean, they are 5-time Super Bowl champions.
No, they don't catch any flack, and he doesn't care all that much. He cares about Super Mario more than about sports at this rate.
He's got his priorities straight. Hey,
exactly.
Speaking of what you just said, you had the Duncan Holder show, and that was part of the connection you had with NOLA.com and Times-Picayune. What's going on with Larry Holder right now? The news just hit yesterday.
Yeah, it's been an interesting few weeks, and I just joined a website called The Athletic, and if you're not familiar with it, it is a subscription site, and people are wondering, what am I going to do paying for this because we didn't pay for you before.
Right.
But it's a subscription-based site. It is basically the editorial style is that of Sports Illustrated. We give you in-depth coverage, in-depth analysis, no ads, no pop-up videos, no clickbait, no garbage. It's all quality journalism, and what they're doing is they're jumping into every major market in America. We did a huge launch yesterday. Today, we just announced a bigger brand in the NFL. Jay Glazer is working with The Athletic.
Big time.
One of the major insiders that everyone knows across the
country. Certainly Sean Payton's insider. Isn't that true?
I would certainly say yes. But look, and it's, I'll just pitch it. You can go to theathletic.com/NOLA launch, and you get 30% off your yearly subscription. It's literally $3.50. But myself, Will Guillory, who covers the Pelicans.
For a month, though, right?
Yeah, that's $3.50 for a month.
So I was about to say a year.
That's like $40 for
right, yeah, right. Yeah, it's nothing. Come on.
But it's also, you're getting quality journalism, in-depth journalism, and it's a 180 degree of what people are accustomed to and what I'm accustomed to. But it's something exciting, and what they're doing is going around the country, going to get the best writers that cover each sport and each team, and the amount of talent is ridiculous. And like I said, my former colleague at the Times-Picayune NOLA.com, Will Guillory, is coming with me, and he's covering the Pelicans for The Athletic as well. And we're going to have more pieces to the puzzle coming real soon.
I like Will a lot. By the way, I am older than you. Some might say significantly, but I lived in...
You're like 3 years older than me.
Just 3, right? Yeah. I lived in Washington, D.C., and I remember the National became big. In fact, my roommate, who I played a lot of hoops with, was from New York, went to Northwestern, and he was chosen by the great Frank DeFord, you see right there, the great Sports Illustrated writer, to be one of their writers. He had won a Pulitzer Prize. Some say Pulitzer. I say Pulitzer.
Pulitzer.
And he won one for the article he did on the Kentucky basketball scandal. He also wrote the famous article for you guys that remember Villanova upsetting Georgetown, the cover article by Gary McLean doing cocaine during the Final Four and the finals. I mean, he's a great writer. Done a lot of stuff with LSU too now. But I remember he went to this thing called the National, and that's the first thing I thought of when I heard it. Pay sites are not new. Rivals.com, Scout, all these, there's a bunch of them, because they try to get the very best. And you're not going to, like you said, no ads, none of the stuff you have to click off and all that. It's kind of annoying. What is the difference between this, the National, which I thought was great? I still have every single copy. It was a paper thing, 5 days a week. And I still have them in a box somewhere. I think somebody tried to throw them away, but I found them. But the fact is, what's the difference in what you're doing in that?
Well, the National obviously was well before its time. I mean, it didn't survive. I think it might have lasted.
But it was brilliant while it was there.
But they had
it was brilliant
writers all over the country, and the difference with the National and the Athletic is simply we don't have to worry about printing a paper and distributing across America. That was their big...
We're in the digital age.
That was their big hiccup. And look, I'll be honest with you. You have a subscription to Netflix. You have a subscription to Spotify. It's basically kind of the thinking behind this. And people pay for quality journalism.
Right.
They do. And I'm telling you, the site is just crystal clean. It's refreshing. And the whole approach to this whole thing, and one of the reasons why I went there is because I don't want to have to worry about covering a night game for the Saints and not being able to even go down to the locker room and get the reaction.
Because you have a deadline on the story.
Because you have a print deadline.
Right.
You got to get it right on the gun. Well, guess what? I can be the last one in the locker room getting the scoop from everyone, writing an in-depth opinion, because I'm going to be a columnist and write profiles and features as well. So I'll be able to be down there longer and get you the full story. And I think that's the whole part of the whole website's mantra. We want to be as in-depth as humanly possible and give you what others can't give you because they have limited restrictions.
You did CBSSports.com, I believe, covering the Saints. Then you had the Sports Hangover. Then you went to NOLA.com. You're an established guy covering this professional team in this town. How excited are you about this new gig? I mean, because this is uncharted territory for you, so it's kind of got to be a little bit exciting, maybe a little bit daunting.
I think it's both. It's both exciting and nerve-wracking because it's new and you're basically going out on a limb for yourself. You're trusting yourself. And I could say just the initial reaction just through friends and social media that a lot of people have subscribed, and I appreciate it. And we're just going to bring you big quality work. And I trust the model. I trust what we're doing. And I'm really looking forward to it. And I know you're going to talk with Mike Detillier later about LSU, but I'm going to be able to cover a lot of LSU as well. Actually, after we're done, I'm going up there to go talk with LSU to kind of get the lay of the land because I have not covered them on a regular basis outside of hit and miss when I was working at CBS Sports since I was in college. So this is certainly exciting and it's refreshing to me. And just this whole story style, whether I got to do a slideshow or I got to do all these crazy things, it's refreshing to just kind of sit down, write, and get back to kind of your roots.
You're right. I'm catching Detillier later, and you're savvy too. People can call you a lot of things, but stupid is not one of them. So moving
People
forward,
have called me stupid. That's cool.
Well, you're not in the business if you don't get called that a little bit twice a day.
Yes.
Hey, let's talk about the Saints team because this is a little different than previous years. There's expectations are high. Honestly, maybe Bountygate. Since Bountygate, their expectations coming into a season could not have been higher than they are right now. I know they had the playoff when Peyton came back in 2013, but you could see that was kind of smoke and mirrors. The defense all of a sudden went from 32 or 31 to 4, and I was like, how did this happen? Because there was really no, way to fill it out. Now you realize they've got Marshawn Lattimore and Cam Jordan playing at the top of his game. What is your overall outlook on this team?
I think they're a legitimate Super Bowl contender. And I warn everyone when I say that, because everyone, I'm sure they ask you, how good do you think the Saints are going to be? Sure. I say, well, they're supposed to be good. And I warn everyone when I say this, how many teams were supposed to be good last year and weren't?
Right.
All you have to do is look at the
Dallas Cowboys,
the Packers. Look at the 4 division winners in the NFC last year.
Right.
They in 2016, 3 of them finished in third, and the Eagles finished last.
Yes.
And they won the Super Bowl. Parity is king, and the friendly part of the schedule comes early for the Saints, so I think that could get them propelled. But look, they're not a hunter anymore. They're one of the hunted, and people expect them to be good. And I do actually like Sean Payton's mantra, prove them right. I don't think he would have done that in the past. I think he would have tried to duck away, but he knows they're good. Everyone knows they're good. So I think embracing it is smart. And I don't think Sean Payton, even maybe 3 or 4 years ago, would have gone this route. I think this is a smart route for him.
I'm going to ask you about Sean Payton, because that's a great thing, because we've seen him through the years, and I've only been back from my 7th training camp, but you've been through every one of them. So
everyone with him, yes.
Everyone with him is my point. So my point is, what have you seen his progression and transition as a coach and as a human being?
I think he's become more savvy to how to deal with players. And it's something he picks off Bill Parcells. That's his mentor. And I think he's able to kind of mold himself into, all right, you don't need to be, chewing someone out all the time. Now, on game day, he just can't help himself. But I do think he's able to kind of cater to different players in different ways. And again, that's something that he took from Parcells. Parcells treated Lawrence Taylor differently than he treated Phil Simms, and I think Sean Payton has a way of doing that. And I just think he's savvy enough to know, and one of the smart things I think he does is get on the competition committee. He wants to be part of the game, and even in that, he's ahead of the game in some of these rule changes. So I think he's shifted and has, say, the bounty scandal humbled him a little bit. I'd say not really, and that's probably
he's less brash.
He's not as brash. I would argue
he's still
against
confident.
That. I would argue against that when you're skull clapping and throat slashing.
That last year, yeah,
that's not good.
I was just thinking of training camp this year, what I've seen. Yeah. As opposed to a lot of the previous years. There just seems to be a different feeling about him. And I don't mean brash. You're right. I forgot about the skull. Skull. Yeah.
Skull.
Yeah, and then
they lost. The choking thing.
Yeah, one guy fired, who ended up being a great college coach, and now he's with the Seahawks. And Pete Carroll, he did the choke thing back when the New England days. Hey, but as far as this team, what's the difference between this squad they have this year than the one that finished the season last year?
I like what they did at linebacker, Demario Davis. I think he's going to be an every-down guy. Patrick Robinson, I'm telling you, he is a different guy.
He's a good player.
It's amazing. Well, it's not even just that. I think it's if people watched interviews from the past, he came into the league with a lack of confidence. He had a speech impediment.
Yeah.
And it hindered his confidence. It hurt him on the field and it hurt him off the field. And he comes back, and now he's confident. There's no sign of this. You could tell he's a different guy. You can watch him on the field. He's a different player, and they know exactly what they're doing with him. So I think just even those two pieces alone helps them become a better team. And then you've got some other pieces you can add. Traquan Smith on offense. There is still a question about Marcus Davenport as well.
I have a question that I think savvy Saints fans will understand, because despite the fact they play a 4-3, they played a lot of 5 DB sets for the last few years. And a lot of times it's 3 safeties. Von Bell, Marcus Williams, and of course, the new player, Kirk Coleman. But now you're talking about using that corner as a slot corner, and we just mentioned him, Patrick Robinson, and along with great Marshawn Lattimore and Ken Crawley. How is the 6 secondary guys how's it going to flesh out as the guys that get most of the time out of those 6? Because you got 3 corners and 3 safeties. They're not going to play all 6 of them at the same time, are they?
No, and I think Von Bell is probably going to be the guy who was shifted out, and I think out of necessity last year.
And he was a leading tackler last year, by the way.
Right, he was the leading tackler, but he didn't play that many snaps in the first 2 weeks, and then they kind of shifted the defense, and you saw a bit of a difference there. But they have been looking for a corner. They don't want Kenny Vaccaro playing as a slot corner. There's a reason why it took him forever to get signed. That's not what he's not good at that, and so they moved on. They've been looking for a nickel corner. Actually, they've been looking for corners, period, for I don't even know how long. But the fact they got Lattimore, Ken Crawley, I think was a nice surprise. And then they zeroed in, all right, we've got to get one of the best nickel corners in the league. They went and got Patrick Robinson. And I think that alone solidifies the defense more than what we've seen in the past.
Well, you've solidified the Athletic, and I urge everyone to check this out. The Athletic, how do they get to that site?
All right, theathletic.com/New Orleans, and if you want to go subscribe, 30% off theathletic.com/NOLA launch. You can go there, subscribe, and it's all that. The app is awesome on your phone. I'm telling you, it's the easiest reading thing I honestly have ever seen.
I'm going to do it. How many times have you been to a Saints press conference and you've seen Sean Payton wearing this with this TASC right there?
I mean, that's the new hot thing going on.
I mean, if you put your hands on it, you know what I'm talking about.
Like
it is so soft. I know you're...
You know I love dry fit.
Yeah.
I live in dry fit.
Yeah.
I would have showed up to this interview in a dry fit.
I'm going to change you, though, because I know your former partner on the radio loves this, and he actually turned me on to it.
Yeah.
I'll give him a plug, Gus. But the fact is he was right about something. This is the best.
This is the first.
You're going to throw away.
Maybe the second time.
You see the dry fit that I had before, because I had a lot of it. I used to work out, believe it or not. Yeah. And Under Armour, you know what I do now? I have rocks that I just throw at it in the closet because I wear this task every day.
Awesome.
And then check it out. That'll get you started over at Shays Delachey's. Larry Holder.
Good to be here.
Good luck in your future.
Thank you. I won't be a stranger.
Yeah. By the way, you covered some LSU too.
I am.
I didn't get into that because I want to talk Saints, but it's more well-rounded. Not just the Saints. He's a columnist, so he's going to talk about more than the New Orleans Saints. We're going to get some LSU stuff. He'll be telling you about that later. But check it out, theathletic.com/New Orleans. Is it New Orleans Saints? New Orleans, we're there. Hey, coming up next, we're going to talk LSU, and we're going to talk a lot of it. He alluded to it. Mike Detillier next, right here on Primetime Sports. Welcome back to Primetime Sports. And like I said in the open, also, you know what the summers I've been doing? It's been a ton of players, former players, greats like last week, former Heisman Trophy runner-up Jerry Stovall, but Archie Manning was on this summer, Alvin Gentry, Coach O. We had them coming in and out. It was fun. But when you want to talk about teams, you just heard Larry Holder. I got to thank him talking about the Saints. Well, now we're going to talk about LSU. You go to the media because they know what they're talking about. They're there, and they study it. They don't have any kind of bias towards it. Right now, we're going to may touch on some Saints, but I definitely want to get into LSU because they seem like a little bit of an enigma to a lot of people across the country. What's going on with this program? They have a ton of talent. We all know that, but they have a lot of unproven talent on the college level. Only 10 returning starters. And Coach O, I think he's done a great job considering what's been going on. There's 6 people that they may have expected or at least hope to have expected to play right now, and they're not going to be playing, at least anytime in the immediate future. And Coach O's holding this thing together, but they have a big first game against the Miami Hurricanes, and none better to tell us that than the guru himself. Yeah, the guy who writes the draft report that you study for a month. And he talks about the Saints, LSU, and anything else you want to ask him about. But here he is, Mike Detillier.
Good seeing you, Scott.
From the Bayou.
Pleasure, brother.
Always in the city, hanging out. How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing great, thank you.
What's life like you for this time of year? Because I know draft time, it's absolutely nuts, and I can't think that it's much different right now.
Yeah, it's hectic, but I'm used to it. You know, I graduated those courses, so to speak. So I understand. You know, there's football season, so you juggling college, pro football, and whatever else I do on the prep level. So, you know, it is what it is. And, hey, if you don't love it, then don't do it.
Before we delve into the LSU Tigers, I got to ask you, I mean, you know the Saints and LSU equally well as anybody in the state. What do you prefer covering?
Man.
Tough question?
When the Saints are winning, I prefer covering the Saints.
Right.
Because, you know, when they're losing, it's a chore. Now, it's easier to do sports talk radio when they're losing.
Yeah.
Because you come up, they got every line lit. Everybody got to have a squawk about it. And so it's been a lot easier covering LSU the last few years.
Which fans are more passionate, LSU or the Saints?
That's no question. I think LSU fans, because of the history.
Yeah.
You know, and they have something there. Now, the Saints, because of one Super Bowl, it's built around a certain genre.
Right.
LSU fans, you can go from people who are 85 years old to people who are 5 years old. And so, the younger fans don't remember some of those leaner years.
Oh, yeah. I remember.
Just like Saints fans, some of them don't understand if you were young enough and grew up in this area, 60s, 70s, 80s, man, there wasn't no great times covering the Saints or watching them.
No, I was right next to the stadium as a kid. I'm pretty much the age of the Saints. And I remember the 5-win season back when you had 14 games before 78 when they moved it to 16. When we won 5, somewhere in the mid-70s, it was a parade being thrown down the street. We were 5-9, no double-digit losses for the first time. So I remember the lean years. Yeah. And when we were at 7-9, 8-8 back in the late 70s, well, that was cause for Bacchus and them to roll again during the offseason.
Well, what's happened is Sean Payton and Nick Saban set the bar at a certain level.
Yeah.
Sean set that bar at a certain level. And now expectations are double-digit winning seasons, getting to the playoffs. Now, once you get into the playoffs, who knows what happens, but that is the expectations. Nick Saban set that bar at a super high level at LSU. And for a while, Les went toe-to-toe with that. And then it has started to trail off. And you still now... You had a tipping point at LSU of what are you going to do. No matter if Tom Herman was here or Jimbo Fisher, I can't say rebuild, but you would have had to retool this team.
Yeah.
And Ed told me this the day after he took the job. First thing I have to do is rebuild my offensive and defensive lines. We don't have the talent and depth we should have there. He's starting to get that now, especially on the defensive side of the football. On offense, still maybe a question mark here and there. If you don't solve the quarterback issue, everything else is minute. Because I think that's what LSU fans are going to judge Orgeron and his staff on, is can he develop or can the staff develop Joe Burrow, who's going to be the starter, and Miles Brennan, who eventually will be the starter down the line.
All right, well, let's start there then. When you look at these two guys, LSU does not let the media watch practice, so it's hard to tell what's going on with any kind of realization. You got to just listen to what you're being told. So that said, you have a pipeline to Coach O, and I know you don't want to, say anything out of turn that he may tell you on the side. But my point is, what is your feeling about what these two guys bring to the table?
Well, Joe Burrow's a coach's son.
Yep.
Grew up in that environment. His uncle was a former player. So, you're talking about a guy who understands this game at a certain level. One of the things is when he first came here, they were hoping every day he would come in, put an hour, hour and a half of film work in. He's putting in 3.5.
Wow.
He has gotten the receivers to work out with him, in the afternoon hours when it can't be supervised. You have to do it on your own. That hasn't been done in recent years. With Miles, you have a very talented passer, and he can sling it. The thing with him is he's going to have to put some meat on the bone. He's got something I wish I still had, the inability to pick up weight.
No doubt.
No doubt. He's got that, I think, down the line. I think it will come to him. But I do believe that LSU will be judged, and Ed Orgeron will be judged on how well he develops Joe Burrow for today and 2019 and Miles Brennan in the future.
I just mentioned you're good friends with O. What's going through O's head right now? Because, he's got to hear some of the chatter. I know he probably blocks a lot of it out, but the national people saying he's on the hot seat. You got local people saying, hey, they got to win. People don't realize not everybody can be what Alabama's doing right now. It's kind of amazing. But like you said, the bar was kind of set. Both Saban and Miles won national championships. I don't think anybody expects that to happen anytime in the very near future. But what do you think is going through his head and what he feels he has to do this season?
One of the things is nobody's more enthusiastic and can kind of just delegate what's really important, what's not, better than he is. A year ago at this time, his wife was going through a lot of major health issues.
Yeah.
And he was able to, work through all of that. He knew there was going to be distractions. The transfers, anybody who was paying attention, you realize as soon as Joe Burrow signed, Lowell Narcisse and Justin McMillan were gone.
Right.
The off-the-field things, you hope that you can, have kids understand, and we feel like parents, I think, as a coach, you feel like, you know what, these are my kids, and sometimes you're so frustrated in saying, why would you do that?
Right.
You know better than that, and they get themselves in trouble. But I think one of the things with O, he understands that you have to work beyond this. This isn't his first rodeo here.
No.
I mean, he's been around a long time and has dealt with those type of things as an assistant coach. So I do think, better than most, he can understand how to compartmentalize things in life.
After the Troy game last season, I think you would have won a lot of money if you'd have said LSU was going to win 6 of their last 7 games. The only time they got handled all year, and really in recent past, not even Alabama has handled them like Mississippi State did earlier in the year. Then you lost to Troy, but they came back, and they showed true character, in my opinion. They took Florida out on the road in a very close game. They looked terrible against Auburn in the first half, and all of a sudden, the light bulb went on, and they played one of the best halves of football I've ever seen from the Tigers, taking an Auburn team that was in the top 10 and undefeated, beat them, and then they continued to win, only losing to Alabama in a 24-10 game, but it wasn't like a blowout. So they went 6-7 throughout 6-1 in the SEC the rest of the way, and then lost the heartbreaker to Notre Dame. That said, they still don't give any credit for the way they finished. You only hear about that one bad loss. Do you think that's fair?
No, but you always judged on your last appearance. How you lost to Notre Dame, okay, more than the Mississippi State game, I think people were upset. This was a game you should have put away in the first half. Offensively, you moved the football, got almost 0 out of it. You had a field goal kicker who couldn't kick a field goal inside 25 yards.
That's the problem.
So here's my thing. You always judged on your last moment, just like people judge Marcus Williams, who I think's one heck of a player, but they still bring it up today about that event. It is fair or unfair. That's how you're going to be judged on what happened at that Notre Dame game when you should have beaten them.
No doubt. No doubt.
And so what happens? A series of events. You lose to Notre Dame. The situation between Orgeron and Canada, you knew, was unlivable between the two of them.
It got ugly.
And so the marriage had to end. Then, at the end of recruiting, you had a situation where you don't get signed any cornerbacks. You lose Surtain left right at the end and goes to Alabama.
Yep.
And you don't land a quarterback. You don't land a prep quarterback. So those series of events, Scott, has put him in the kind of catbird seat where everybody can throw it at him. And he understands that's part of this business. Bill Parcells told me this years ago, Mike, there comes a moment for every coach. You run in that hot water in the morning, you look in that mirror and you splash it on your face and you say, you know what? I know why this job came open. It's not that we loaded with talent. This job came open for a different reason.
Yes.
And it happened to Orgeron.
I want to get into some players and who we're going to focus on, but I got to ask you on that same topic. Okay, no field goal kicker. Let's be honest. When you have to go on 4th and 15 from your own 22-yard line because you can't get a field goal, even sometimes inside the 20.
No, listen,
They're 11-2 easy. They beat Troy, and then they beat Notre Dame. That's not even a question in anybody's mind. You're 11-2, and then you're coming into this season. Are you hearing any of this stuff about, can they win 6 or 7 games? Which, by the way, they've won less than 8. Not once in the 2000s, the only Power 5 team to do that. Now, are we having the same discussion? My question is, if they were 11-2 instead of 9-4, but for a field goal kicker, that's my point. If you had a guy that could kick anything over, and that's why I try to tell fans, it's like we wouldn't even be discussing this, mediocrity if that was the case.
And so now the two most important people for Ed Orgeron to succeed this year, because his defensive front seven, I'll be honest, it's as good as I've seen it at LSU in the last 7 or 8 years. Talent and depth, they got it. Front seven defensive.
Rashard Lawrence, Devin White, Chason, it goes on and on.
And you can go on and on with it. They've built that up really well. Now, they've got talent in the secondary, but some of it is young. And the guy playing opposite Greedy, man, he better have titanium in the backbone. Because
they're going for him.
Last year, teams were stupid. They thought they were going to challenge Greedy and not Dante Jackson.
Because he was a freshman.
Man, my thing is, Dante was the weak link in the chain at the cornerback position. It wasn't Greedy. Yeah. And it was obvious when Notre Dame wanted to make a play and Alabama wanted to make a play They didn't go after Greedy. They went after Dante because of his size.
Right.
Again, that's going to be part of it. I do think Cole Tracy at kicker, Joe Burrow at quarterback. That is going to make or break this season for LSU.
Some say, you mentioned the front seven, some say Devin White is the #1 interior linebacker in the country.
He's awfully good.
Do you agree?
He's awfully good. I mean, athletically, he's off the charts. Great speed guy, well built. Remember, he was mainly a running back in high school.
He was.
So he's still learning all the little intricacies. What makes him such a super player, Scott, sometimes he'll take a false step, and he is so athletic, so talented, he can get himself back in position to make a play. And also, for the NFL, he can drop in coverage.
Yes, he can.
And that is a big part of it. You got linebackers today that can make a play against a run, but can't cover worth a lick. He can do both of them, and he's not just an all-SEC player. He's an all-American type player. And I think had he not been hurt, people would be saying the same thing about Rashard Lawrence.
Yes. I love number 90. I mean, this guy, I think, is ready for a monster season. I think this is his breakout year. But I have to ask you one question about you mentioned the guy better have titanium on the other side, because we're not sure who it's going to be, but it could be another true freshman like Reedy was last year, Kelvin Joseph. Remember, they missed out on Patrick Surtain, who they thought they were going to get. He went to Alabama. But Kelvin Joseph is a guy that might get a lot of time. Can he be the guy that starts opposite Greedy?
It'll be interesting because he's had great practices. He's a long, lean guy. I thought he was perfect for free safety, but, you have a need at corner. And he's really done a great job at that cornerback position in practice. Let's see the mental toughness in playing in a real game. It's really him and Kerry Vincent right now. I think they'd like Alexander to be the nickelback with that. So, they were hoping for Christian Fulton. It didn't work out that way. But
right.
I think Kelvin Joseph is going to see a tremendous amount of playing time, if not be the starter. And I'll say the same thing about Damone Clark. The linebacker freshman from the Baton Rouge area.
Yeah.
Man, he has really, really looked great. And because of events with Tyler that he suspended from the football team, that opening was there. Jeff Queen gets hurt. All of a sudden now, Damone steps up, and he's been outstanding.
All right, I got to ask you in a nutshell, because the reason I think people are ranking LSU in the low 20s, I mean, hey, I think a lot of people were worried if they were going to be preseason ranked. I mean, but they did make it 25, 24, 23. But I think a lot of it is because they don't know who the skill position players are. They've always had Fournette. They've always had Geis. Who's going to play running back this year? Who's going to be – are they going to have a bell cow like they've had, or are they going to just kind of try to play it by committee?
It's going to be by committee, and early on it'll be Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Okay.
But I think eventually Chris Curry is going to be the guy, the true freshman from the Florida ranks. But, Scott, the way I look at it is almost like a professional team. The stability at quarterback, left tackle, center. I think those are the three most important positions on the team. You can say Joe Burrow has had no work with any of the LSU players other than on his own and in the fall practice. Left tackle Sadiq Charles is a really good player who always really pushed hard to up his game. I think he's got a chance to be a really good player. And then Lloyd Cushenberry at the center position. So all three positions have some question marks today. And that is the
reason that scares me more than anything.
Why I think some people question how good this team is and how good they may be early. That, you play Miami in week 1, you play Auburn in week 3, and it's been Auburn can't beat LSU in Baton Rouge, and LSU's had difficulties beating Auburn there. So we'll see how that goes. But I think game 1 is huge for LSU, not from a momentum standpoint.
The Miami game, right.
Because I don't believe in momentum. Momentum lasts as long as you get hit in the mouth again.
Right.
Confidence that you can do something on the offensive side of the football. And I'm interested to see how Miami looks in the mirror at a team built just like them. Athletically, talent-wise, very similar. And I always think game 1 is a coaching game. You've had a long time to prepare for that opponent and how well that works out.
30 seconds or less. Who are the receivers that we need to look for that are going to get the ball from Burrow or Brennan? Who are they?
Well, they're going to get it from Burrow. Justin Jefferson, I think, is going to be a breakout player for LSU. Tremendous talent. A young man from the Destrehan High School. Again, brother Ricky and Jordan played there. And watch for the 2 freshmen, Jamar Chase from Rummel and Terrence Marshall both have played extremely well. Jonathan Giles gets a lot of ink because of his expertise and his exploits at Texas Tech. But I think the best receiver on this team today is Justin Jefferson.
Wow. That's high praise. Terrace Marshall didn't play his senior year, but the #1 ranked player coming in as a freshman. He's got a lot of ability.
Jamar is awesome.
And Jamar is awesome. Rumble puts out some players, by the way. Will Christian Fulton never play again in Baton Rouge?
Yeah, I think
he's not going to go to the NFL draft or anything like that.
No, I think he'll play next year.
Hey, since you've come last, we've added something to our repertoire. Feel that real quick.
Hey, man, that's awesome.
That's that Task Performance. Try that. That's that soft bamboo cotton, and it's amazing. That's why Sean Payton and that's why Drew Brees, that's all they wear now.
Whoa.
And that is
awesome.
for you, my man. And then
we
still give you a little bit to go get you a little bite to eat. From Shays Delachets, of course, that is Mike Detillier. Of course, Willie Fritz was here earlier. Going to thank him. And Larry Holder, check out his new stuff at The Athletic. The Athletic New Orleans. That's right. He's still going to be covering the Saints, just doing it on a wider level. Hey, by the way, also, for you guys that went to De La Salle, I know there's a bunch of you out there. There's a big event this Saturday night. I'll tell you what, I've been to this event, and it's open for everybody. I'm telling you, my Jesuit friends go, all my friends from Ben Franklin, all the private schools, and even some of my public school friends, they all come. It's a big party. That band's awesome. Check them out Saturday from 6 to 7, and it's going to be right there at De La Salle. It's in their big open cafeteria they have. It's nice. So check it out. Hey, by the way, got to thank everybody. I already thanked my guests, but, of course, Will Hill, Naila Jones, Anthony Alonji, and the Redhead Tsunami, and everybody at WLAE and CST. We'll see you next week, getting ready for the kickoff to the college football season.